Guess what? I'm back already. I bet you didn't think you'd see me here so quick. Maybe you did, because it's the next video. Anyway, I figured I would start right away and try to talk to you and go through what I was planning on going through with you, at least for the notes part, in the next couple days, so that way I get ahead. So if we kind of talk about it and agree, yeah, it's way better, which I think it is. If we agree that it's way better for you to watch these notes at your own pace and take notes at them at your own pace, not during our live class sessions, then you're going to see a lot more of these a lot more frequently. And that way it leaves our class time open for discussion and doing work together, which is, I think, a way better use of our time. I hope you agree. If you don't, that's okay. You are totally entitled to your own opinion. That's just my opinion. Okay, so let's start right where we left off. So we talked about plant adaptations, and my head's in the way of the background. Sorry. You can just imagine me there in the desert. That might not be so bad. It's nice and warm there. You see some saguaros. Okay, anyway, so let's talk about adaptations. I know I said with your group. This is the notes I would use if we were in class. So you can kind of talk to another person if you want when we get to that point, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So what's an adaptation? It's a structure, a behavior, anything like that you could notice about a living creature that they have that help them survive best in their environment. So like an adaptation that a polar bear might be its fur. It's technically not white, it's actually clear, and they have their skin underneath is black. So that's to absorb heat. So it helps to draw heat to them and keep their heat into their skin in the very, very cold Arctic areas. That is not a helpful adaptation if they were to live in the desert. The white doesn't help them blend into the desert lands, and they don't want to draw heat to their body. They will very quickly overheat if they were in a desert. So take a minute, pause. You can talk to someone else. I don't know, talk to your family. Talk to your can of Arizona 0-calorie green tea with ginseng, and think of some plants or animals and what kind of adaptations they might have. We talked about some plant ones just the other day, or whenever you're watching this. So if you took a minute to pause, you can also stop and look at what I have here. My head is just in front of a desert with some cacti behind it, so here I'll just put that there instead. That's what's behind my head, if you can tell. All right, so just looking at these, we can talk about the adaptations that they have. I'm going to try to ask you that in class, but I'll go over it with you. So look at the color of their fur. It's sort of this dusty brown color. I think they might even call it dun, depending on who you're asking. So it's like this brown color. And look at the way that this jackrabbit is. Look how long its ears are. That actually helps them dissipate or lose heat through their ears. So you can really totally even see the veins in their ears. So that helps them lose heat because they have to have some kind of adaptation to help them lose heat because it's so hot in the desert. I just chose desert animals because, I don't know, they're cool. I mean, all animals are cool and all plants are cool. Living things are cool. What do you want me to say? I just picked desert because I felt like desert. They have like longer arms and legs and they're skinny. Again, that helps them kind of lose heat. Like animals like an Arctic hare might be squat and kind of fat to help it contain and absorb heat and keep heat in its body. So their coloration helps them blend in with the environment. They have maybe longer limbs or longer appendages like ears and stuff to help them lose heat. Think of like a snake in the desert. It might have like a good sense of smell, or it could maybe detect heat, like infrared heat from different animals so it can hunt prey better. And then you have the saguaro cactus is the typical, what you picture when you picture the desert cactus. Oh, boo, you can't see it. It turns on. It's actually a little light. I guess you can kind of see it. Maybe that's better. There you go. Saguaro cactuses don't actually light up, sadly. But they're very thick. They have a big, thick leaf that stores water. I'll tell you some stuff maybe you didn't know about them other than what you can see. Oh, yeah, I'm sure you know they have spines. So you might be thirsty in the desert, but you're not going to sit there and just grab a saguaro with your hand because it'll poke you, and that won't be fun. But something you may not know about things like cacti is that they do photosynthesis in a different way. They actually separate how they do photosynthesis, because if they did a lot of that during the daytime, they would actually lose water through the openings in their leaves called stomata. So they actually have a special way of doing photosynthesis that's different than like what you consider a typical plant. Isn't that neat? Don't you love learning new things? I do. So try to think about these things as we go through. Like, we'll talk about them in class. I didn't adjust this for this video because I wanted you to see it like how I have it for you. Think of some things like a baby, living thing needs, like a baby. She's not a baby anymore. She would be so embarrassed when she's older. Hopefully you paused and thought about some things. And maybe you said things like food, water, shelter, care, maybe clothes, a diaper if you were talking about like a human baby. But they need care, at least food and shelter and protection. So let's talk about some reproductive adaptations, like the egg. So clearly humans don't lay eggs, but we have different types of eggs. So living things, animals, have started laying eggs. And let's kind of talk about why creatures lay eggs and what the egg is. So eggs offer food and protection. Think about a chicken egg. When you crack it open and open it up, what's inside? There's the clear stuff that cooks up and looks white, and then there's the yellow stuff, the yolk. What is yolk? Yolk is got a lot of fat in it. So that's actually nutrition for the growing bird, if there's a bird. When you have an egg like that you got from the store, there's not a chicken in it. There's not ever going to be a baby chicken in it. So like those eggs are produced from a farm where there are no roosters, no boy chickens. Boy chickens are roosters. So there's no roosters. There's just hens. And the hens will lay eggs. They lay them pretty regularly. And there's no male to fertilize the eggs, so there's no baby inside. So there's no baby in that egg. So eggs offer protection. Like if something gets rolled around, that egg is okay because it's got this nice shell. Inside the egg, the mom doesn't need to like bring worms and stuff to the egg because inside is some yellow yolk that the baby bird can eat. And it feeds off of it and grows. And by the time it's done growing and ready to hatch, it's eaten up all the yolk. A seed is very similar. We eat seeds, but inside of a seed, I'll find a picture. I'll put it up for you guys in Google Classroom. But a seed is a baby plant and food. So if you were to open up a seed, you would literally see a very, very tiny baby plant in there. And the other part, the part that we like to eat, is food. They're usually called cotyledons, and that's the food for the growing plant until it can produce its own food. I'll show you guys stuff like this in class if you have questions and want to understand better. So eggs offer food and protection. There are soft-shelled eggs, so creatures that are like fish and amphibians, they lay soft-shelled eggs. Do you ever go to a pond and see frog eggs? Don't pick them up and ruin them, but they're very squishy and soft. So they don't offer as much protection. That's why frogs lay a zillion of them, because probably some of them are going to get snapped up and eaten. Same thing with fish. They'll make a zillion eggs. They won't just make one. But soft-shelled eggs need to be laid in water. As things changed and living things changed, creatures started moving away from water, and reptiles and birds produced hard-shelled eggs. And that's an adaptation for living on land. They don't need to live and return to the water ever again or stay in the water. They can live on land because they have the water inside the egg. Neat. So here's some frog eggs, and here's some hard-shelled eggs. So you can see the little zygote right in there, the little embryo. It's going to be a tadpole and hatch out. How cute. Where here you can't see what's going on inside. Mammals are totally different. Females produce egg cells, but we don't lay an egg. That egg cell will get fertilized, and then mammals develop their young inside. marsupials, remember that's like a kangaroo, they have the pouch. So the young will start developing inside the mother, and then it'll come out and be born. It'll be so tiny, super tiny, and then we'll crawl into the pouch and finish developing in the pouch. Placental mammals, like probably an animal, if I said think of an animal, you'd probably think of a placental animal first. Like humans, the human young grows inside the body of the mother. Monotremes are weird. There's two left, two extant, not extinct, extant, that means living, today, species of monotremes, and those are echidnas and platypus. I don't know why I couldn't think of it for a minute. You'd know what an echidna is if you play Sonic. It's the red one. Look up a picture if you feel like it. You're on the computer right now. Pause the video and take a look at a picture. They're kind of cute. And a platypus. Those two are mammals that lay eggs. How crazy is that? And they're very, very tiny eggs. So if you want to bring in like some kind of evolution, those were probably the first mammals were probably more similar to monotremes in that they produced an egg instead of having the egg cell develop and grow inside the mother. Neat. Really neat. So these are examples of reproductive adaptations. Oh, and sorry, my head's in the way. You can pretend I'm a kangaroo. I'm not, but behind me is a kangaroo. So also how things reproduce is a reproductive adaptation. So single-celled creatures, they don't need a mate. They don't need to wander around and find like a boy or girl cell. They're just like, okay, reproduce time, boop. They grow and grow and grow. And then after a time of growing larger, they'll split, and the mother cell will become two daughter cells. Why isn't it a father and son cell? I didn't name it. That's what they're called. Seeds. Remember, this is like a baby plant, and I talked about that. I kind of got ahead of myself, but you can always go back and look at what seeds are. So you need pollen and an ovule. They have to come together. So that's why you have pollinators like bees and bugs and birds and even people sometimes to move pollen from one plant to another, which will produce a seed. And there's a baby plant inside there, and that's food for the baby plant. Here behind my head also is a mushroom, which are really cool. They're really fun guys. I know I'm not funny. I know I'm not. I have to say it. I mean, you have to. If you get the opportunity, you're going to say it too. Don't act like you won't. Because a mushroom is a fungi is plural. Okay. So we have a mushroom. What's this black stuff? If you ever have a mushroom that you find, I'm not going to say go find something outside because you could potentially find a poisonous mushroom, so don't do that. If you have a mushroom you got from the store, you can press it down on a piece of paper and you might see this black stuff come out. Or did you ever kick a mushroom? Like you're outside and there's a mushroom and you're like, oh, get it. And you kick it and puff, like some smoke comes out. Well, it's not smoke, those are spores. Mushrooms reproduce using spores. So the mushroom that you see that comes out of the ground is actually the reproductive part of the fungus. Fungi are really cool. I don't know if you knew that. They're really cool. They have all these little little hair-like structures called hyphae, and if they meet up together underground or wherever they're in a piece of bread or whatever, then they can produce a mushroom, and then the mushroom will produce spores. And when you kick that mushroom and the spores come out, the smoke, you're just helping the mushroom reproduce. That's why when I was little and I didn't understand when my dad told me not to do that, now I understand. And then how eggs and stuff are fertilized is also an adaptation. Frogs, when they reproduce externally. So, ask your parents for other stuff, but like, nothing goes inside of the other frog. They just sort of hang out together, decide they're going to reproduce. The male will release sperm, the female will release eggs, and they just swim and fertilize out in the water. That's external fertilization. That's an adaptation. They don't need to have developed any sort of anything to fertilize internally or carry any egg cell internally for any amount of time. They can just leave, which is why they produce many, 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 many eggs. Frogs, most frogs, not all, fish, they usually don't care for their young, so they produce a lot and hope some survive. Other animals, their fertilization occurs internally, but that means they have to have organs that allow for internal fertilization and potentially carrying an egg or carrying young. So there are trade-offs to both of those ways of producing young. Now let's talk about some behavioral adaptations. So on the EOC at the end of the year, they do talk about these things, and they do want you to know them. And so I'm going to try to explain them to you. I totally recommend you looking up videos by other people who make way better videos than me about some of these things. And so I'll try to explain it. But I mean, you're on the computer anyway. You might as well take a minute to look some of this stuff up for yourself and learn some new things. So a behavioral adaptation can be like an instinct. So that's something a creature is born with. Like nobody tells a bird how to migrate. It's instinctual. It's something they know. So something else would be imprinting. So this picture of this lady here with these ducks following her, she raised them, or geese. No, they're ducks. I was right, they're ducks. So she hatched them and raised them, and they imprinted on her. They're like, that's Mama Duck. So we'll follow her and do what she does. So that helps creatures and animals and stuff learn how to act the right way so they can grow up and function the right way. They'll watch their parents do things. Then there's conditioning. So I'm going to teach you an example of classical conditioning. I totally encourage you to look up, read about, watch a video about Pavlov's dogs, but I'll kind of give you a quick summary. So there was a guy, and he had some dogs, and before he would feed them, he would ring a bell, ding, 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 and then he would put food in their bowls, and they would come running, and they'd start drooling and salivating and be like, oh yeah, it's dinner time. All right. So eventually, when he would ring the bell, anytime he would ring the bell, the dogs would start running and drooling because they were like, it's food time. It's time for food. So that's conditioning. They were conditioned to respond a certain way when they heard something. You guys are conditioned in a way. Well, maybe not now because we haven't been in school for a little while. But whenever the bell goes off in school, bing, 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 you get up, take all your stuff, get up, go to your next class. You don't think the bell rang, I have to get up. You just know it's time to switch. You've been conditioned. Isn't that weird to think about those kinds of things? So this little example I have here of an instinct, this is actually the opposite sort of hibernation. So in hibernation, in cold weather, animals will get into like a cave or something, and they'll kind of do a lot less, eat a lot less, hunt a lot less, like sleep a lot more, become much, much, much less active. Well, in desert areas in the summer, it gets too hot for these animals to really do a whole lot. So they'll kind of bury them, like make their own little cave and bury themselves and be much less active. That's called estivation. So that's a fun word. Estivation. It's like the opposite of hibernation. So those are some behavioral adaptations. And let's look at some pictures and talk about structural adaptations. Those are body parts, coloration, that sort of thing, that help a living thing survive in its environment. So take a minute. Do I have more pictures? Yeah. So take a minute to just look at some of these pictures and see what you notice about them. And behind me is sad. My head's covering this cool flying fish. You'll see it when you look at the notes, but so just take a minute and pause. I'm going to take a minute and have my non-sponsored Arizona green tea. Very good. Okay, so if you take a look at this walking leaf, for example, well, it's kind of clear what some of these adaptations are. This helps it blend in, probably to hide from predators. You might not be able to tell with this orchid mantis since it's on a leaf, but if it was in the orchid flowers, you might not be able to see it. And the orchid mantis is a predator, so it can serve a dual purpose of hiding from larger predators, but also helping it hide from prey. And so that way the prey doesn't notice it. Some coloration is not for hiding. This isn't going to blend into anything. But this is a poison dart frog, and its skin is poisonous. So oftentimes bright colors are warning colors, like back off, don't touch me, because I will kill you. And that stops animals from eating them because they don't want to die. Predators can blend in, and maybe you wouldn't think a tiger would blend in really well, but I'll try to post up some pictures when I find them. I saved a bunch, but I saved them to my phone. Oops. So it's harder for me to get that out to you when it's on my phone. of just different animals and how well they blend into their environment. That's a structural adaptation. If I moved this walking leaf into the desert, it's not going to survive. That's not the right adaptation for that environment. It kind of helps us see like how fit they are for their environment, which will come in important later when we talk about natural selection. Some adaptations are when animals look like something else, like kind of like it's similar to the warning colorations, kind of mimicry. So these are some owls, but these are moths, and when they open their wings, some butterflies have this too. They look like eyes, and it will scare away a predator. They'll be like, "Oh, no, I don't want to eat that. Sorry, I'll back off." I'm gonna find for you guys. Remind me. I'll find for you a picture of this cool, really huge moth called the Atlas moth. The ends of its wings, to me, look like snake heads, and I think other people have said that too. So I'm not gonna just say to me, but when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, it totally looks like that. It's really cool. It also has no mouth. Ask me about it, and then I'll know that you watched it. And then you have this flying fish. It doesn't actually fly, but it can jettison out of the water and glide for a while to escape predators. And it's got this cool blue color too, so it kind of is harder for a flying predator to see it when it's in the water. Animals are so cool. Everything is so cool. Sometimes you can have mimicry. So this snake is venomous. If something is venomous, if it bites you, you'll die. Poisonous, you bite it and you die. Okay, so this snake is a venomous snake, and this one is not. This color doesn't really blend in at all, but it's trying to mimic, in a way, this one. I know you're going to be like, what's up? They don't look alike at all. Okay, it's enough that an animal would probably look at it and be like, no thanks. I'm just going to avoid that. So it works. Oh, here's a walking stick. They're really hard to spot in the forest. I never see them. People are like, oh, there's one. I'm like, didn't see it. Again, its structural adaptation is that it blends in with its environment. Here's some different structural adaptations that maybe you didn't think about, like their teeth. Pause the video and try to ask yourself which one of these animals is a carnivore and which is an herbivore. Did you pause? You should try. Okay. So this one with the sharp teeth, this is a carnivore. And you can tell because it has sharp teeth. And this is an herbivore. It's got the little biting teeth in the front, but it's got flat teeth back here for grinding up leaves. Here's a vine. Its adaptation, it doesn't have a strong enough body to hold itself up on its own, but it can twist and grab onto things. Some little vines have almost look like little hairs that help it attach to like a stone. Wombats make square poop. Adaptations can be totally weird. Okay, so why do they do that? Some people are like, it won't roll away, kind of can signal, here I am, I'm here, I was here, this is my area, and it's not going to roll away easily. I know it's weird. You can have gills. That's an adaptation. I don't have that. That's how fish are able to get oxygen from the water. Oxygen is dissolved in water. Fish don't breathe water. They breathe oxygen like you. The oxygen, where is it then? Think of if you have like a pop, a soda, you've got fizzy bubbles. You open it, it goes, psh, and you have the bubbles that are dissolved in there. Well, there's oxygen dissolved in water. And when the fish gulp in water and push it out through their gills, they're able to absorb the oxygen that's in the water. That's how they can breathe. That's their adaptation to being able to breathe. So, okay, so that's all I'm going to say about animal adaptations. We talked about reproductive, behavioral, and structural adaptations, so that's kind of a lot. Feel free to ask me any questions, comment me. Did I say like and subscribe? It really helps me out. Maybe one of these days I'll actually have like a significant amount of subscribers, and then I won't know what to do with myself. So I don't know, like and subscribe. It helps me out. I'm only like 80% kidding. So ask me any questions in class that you have about these things. I'm happy to talk to you about them, and hopefully it helps you to have this video so you can pause and look and write your notes. Actually write notes. Actually try. You're going to be surprised at how much you learn and how much better you do if you do those things. All right. Well, I hope that this video helps you, and I'll see you soon.